Our speaker today is Rev Bree Mead. She has been to our church many times. We love it when she comes here. She always has wonderful food for thought. And I'd like to read her bio here. She was born in Chicago, Illinois, where all her formal education was conducted. She has a Bachelor of Science in Recreation from George Williams College. When Rev Bree completed college, she came back to San Diego to spend time with her grandmother. She was the person who mostly nurtured her morals and probably gave her the introduction to spiritualism. She was introduced to the Church of Universal Master and Reverend C.B. Michael, my teacher and mentor. She puts it in the first person at the end here, so it's not funny. Anyway, Reverend Bree started to attend classes between 1985 and 1986. This was when her formal introduction to spiritualism and Space Brothers began. After completing all required classes, she started as a healer and assisted with all aspects of the church program. Reverend Bree progressed to licentiate minister and was introduced to spiritualist churches throughout the San Diego area. She spoke and gave messages to a broader audience. After Reverend Bree took her test and wrote a paper about her understanding of spiritualism, her paper was submitted to Universal Church of the Master. Reverend Bree was ordained in 2000. Universal Church maintains her certification and internationally recognized her license. She was taught to follow the spiritual principles and remember that she is a channel always. Give what I am given. I am not embellished. Give positive messages. We welcome Reverend Bree to speak to you. I always look forward to you.
Oh, thank you.
Your talks are not like anybody else.
I hope that's a good thing.
I always get so much out of it.
Oh, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Morning.
It's nice to see the church so full. It's the last couple of times I've been here, it's been nice and full, but I remember times when it was pretty sparse. Pretty sparse. So this morning's scripture is from the book of Psalms, the 63rd Psalm, verses 1 through 4. O God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. To see thy power and thy glory, so as I have seen thee in the sanctuary. Because thy loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise thee. Thus will I bless thee while I live. I will lift up my hands in thy name. May the Father bless these words in the ears that would then listen. This morning, I come to you with another single word, and that word is passion, passionate. To be passionate. And passion means different things to different people, I'm sure. We all have a passion about one thing or another. But when you think about being passionate, what does that mean exactly to you? Only you know. But I'm asking you today to be passionate about being yourself. Being the unique human being that you are. We all have things that are special to us. My special thing was I love my grandparents. Oh my gosh. They partially raised me. My grandmother was my godmother. She had me baptized. My grandfather had me out in the shed learning how to work with tools and planes and razzles. And I remember getting scraped knees and hit knuckles trying to straighten out long 3-penny nails. And all of those things that helped me grow into the person that I am today, that I love working with my hands. And so to be passionate about something is to enjoy that which you do the most of, whether it be work, whether it be an art skill, like the Reverend who did this marvelous painting. I haven't seen her in a little while, but I'm sure she'll be here sometime. But she's wonderful. But we all have our passions. We know some ministers here that have done hair, and we have people that are just excellent parents, not just, but are excellent parents, raising children to adults that they can stand up and be very proud of. That's a passion right there, being a good parent. And I'm not to say that my parents weren't good. I was raised primarily for a period of time by my mother. She was a single parent until she finally succumbed to my dad's request. He was my adoptive father, but I call him my dad. And she finally married him, and I was so happy because he was one of the most gentlest men that I have ever met in my entire life. I never heard him raise his voice. I never heard a cuss word out of him. The strongest thing that he ever said was, "Oh, for heaven's sakes." And he did that. The last time I heard him say that was, my parents had a real estate office. My dad inherited a real estate office from his father, and he was a senior member. He had worked for the state of Illinois and had progressed. My dad had worked in the stock exchange. He was a very intelligent man, and he had been through the war, and he had polio, and so he made the best out of his life. He really enjoyed real estate, and he came from a real estate banking family in Chicago. And my dad was passionate, very passionate about real estate, and he actually had me to go to real estate classes. I hope I didn't really break his heart over not going into real estate. But it was a very interesting time as I was a teenager, learning about real estate and why people buy real estate, which is one of the reasons why I bought my home. But my father also taught, in addition to real estate and learning about it, he taught appraisals and how you appraise the value of property. So now I suggest to you that you appraise yourself. Appraise yourself. Are you going to give yourself a high rating or a low rating? Let's always strive for a very high rating. Okay? Strive for that high rating. Because when you realize that, I might not have been the best person that I should have been yesterday, but today I'm going to strive to do much better. I'm going to be a better person. And every day when we wake up and we put our feet on the floor and we take that walk down the hall or to the bathroom or we look in the mirror and we're going, oh my goodness, what happened there? But be passionate about yourself. Be happy with yourself. My dad worked up until, almost until the day he died. He was so happy in being a broker and doing his appraisals. He was passionate about computer technology. He bought me my first computer, which I still have. I will not get rid of it. To be passionate about love and life is very special, that you understand what brings you joy. What brings you joy? So if you're not doing what brings you joy, turn your life around. Do what makes you happy. Now, that doesn't always mean that it's going to, I hope it pays the bills. You hope it pays the bills. But if you're successful at it, then that should make you the happiest person walking. It should make you the happiest person on God's green earth. Because to be passionate about something is to show your love, your involvement, your admiration, your involvement. And shouldn't that be what we are about life? Don't just go through life lackadaisical, like, whatever comes, comes. Well, sometimes we draw some vibrations to ourselves that maybe might not be what we really want. But because we're carefree about it, they kind of come on in and attach themselves because they know that we're not going to put up a fight. And at first blush, it might look, oh, this is really interesting. It's very pretty. But if you look deeper into it, what is it really bringing us to? Is there something positive in that energy for us? Or is it a negative vibration? Sometimes it looks like it's an easier route, an easier road for us to travel. But in retrospect, if we go down that road, was it really that easy, or did it bring along with it a lot of thorns and a lot of ill wills and a lot of falling down and picking ourselves back up? We're led to a challenge, the challenge of life. No one ever said it was going to be a life full of roses. No one ever told us that. We know, as a part of growing up, that we're going to fall down and scrape our knees every once in a while. We're going to have to pick ourselves back up and start toddling down the road again. Why? Because it makes us stronger. It makes us learn about those challenges and accept them and overcome them and develop and be much stronger as the result of that. Life is a challenge. If it weren't, we might as well just lay down and be a vegetable and they could throw us in the garden along with everything else and see whether or not we're good fertilizer. Is that what you want to be known as, fertilizer? There's enough out there already, believe you me. There's a lot of fertilizer out there. But let us be known for something valuable, independent, singular. Let us be passionate about who we are. Because if we're not passionate about being ourselves, then who's going to take up the fight for us? It won't be somebody else. It won't be your child. It won't be your adult parents. It won't be your spouse. Only you know how to be you. And we've picked up and worn many hats throughout our time. I remember growing up, I wanted to learn how to be a cartoonist or a painter. And I kind of went through that challenge, and I picked up paintbrush and charcoal pencils, and I drew and I sketched, and I did okay. I was like, okay, this is fun. This is fun, but can I make a living out of it? I don't think I'm that good. And I started doubting myself. And sometimes my mother would say, you don't apply yourself very well. Didn't understand what not applying myself meant. I just thought, oh, you're being lazy. And I knew I wasn't a lazy person. I was always trying to be the best that I could be, but being 5 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 12, what do you expect out of a child? What's the expectation? You have to have a good role model. Now, my mother was a role model for challenge. She was a role model for challenge. And she taught me how to be a better person at the end of the day, let's put it that way. She taught me that things don't just come freely. And if I want to get someplace, I have to work for it. And when I left my parents' home, I came here expecting, I'm just going to take a month's vacation with my grandmother. And 1 month led into 2 months and so forth and so on. And then I went and visited family in Hawaii, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. But I knew I couldn't stay there. That was an extended family. So came back to Grandma. And my grandmother, she was happy with just having me around. And I used to go to the swap meet with her and help her do her thing because she was retired. And I looked at my grandmother, and every day she'd go out in that yard and she'd pull grass. I'm like, Granny, why are you pulling grass? Don't you want grass on the ground? Don't you want the yard to be green? I remember when I was a child, it was always green. But she would pull out crabgrass, and I didn't understand what was the difference between crabgrass and grass. But she would be out in that yard, and she loved her flowers, she loved her yard, she loved her home. And she made it her home, especially after my grandfather passed, because they built that home. My grandfather was a plasterer by trade. And so I take a lot of that skill because he taught my mother how to work with her hands. And my mother, being a nurse by profession, she taught me how to do things. I thought about following in her tradition, and I'm like, I don't know if I have the cognizant skill for becoming a nurse, or she wanted me to become an anesthesiologist. So that wasn't quite my thing. So I went into recreation. And I said, I like working with people. I like helping people do things. And so once I got my degree, I said, I can do this. And then I went out into the big bad world of recreation. I'm like, this is scary. They want me to do a budget. They want me to do a program. They want me to send out newsletters. They want me to do out daily action. Can be overwhelming, but I did it. I did it for 13 years. I worked in hospitals. At the same time, I worked with special populations. And I was passionate about working with special populations. And it was a good job. And I can't say I was ever really tired because I was young. I didn't know any different. I would go on a vacation every once in a while, but I worked 7 days a week for 13 years because my weekend job working with disabilities and my weekday job working with senior citizens, it all kind of helped me to grow into who I am today. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around people. And it was sometimes I had to be the advocate for my seniors. Now, being an advocate for somebody that's maybe not able to get their needs across, to maybe interpret, sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes it's a necessity. I know someone very dear to me, she had a stroke a week ago, right before Mother's Day. And right now, she just got out of the hospital, out of ICU, but they put her in basically a boarding care to help her work on physical therapy so that she can gain her strength. And she was very passionate when she saw me last weekend on Saturday. She was, I'm gonna be here for about a month, but I know it's okay. I know I'll be able to walk. I want to be able to walk. Because she knew that she kept trying to lift her left arm, and she couldn't. She understood that there was something going on. And I just said, Mom, just relax. Take it easy. Don't fight it. Work with it. And I don't know if those words helped her or not, but I gave her some little earrings that I made for her for Mother's Day. And this is an adoptive mother of mine. Because my mother is over in spirit. And so I have adopted mothers along the way because I said, now I'm an orphan, so I have to adopt a couple of moms around to help and support me and keep me on the right path. But I made her these rose quartz earrings. They were apples, and I put them in her ear, and I said, I hope these help you to stay focused. And I'm going to I made a crystal pendant for her, because now I'm starting wire wrapping. And this is helping me to work with my hands again, and that makes me happy. And it seems like when, I don't know how late into the evening I work on it, but I'm like, I gotta get this just right. I want it to look a certain way. And I look at it, and I would look at the people on the YouTube videos, and I'm like, why do they keep turning it around? Why do they keep flipping it around? And sometimes I think, yeah, we gotta flip ourselves around, don't we? And look at ourselves in a different view at a different angle. Look at ourselves in the mirror. So that, I caught myself doing that, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm flipping the stone around. And I'm looking at all the sides, all the angles, and I'm looking to see what's the focal, what's the best point. Let me find the passion in this. Let me find the passion. Let me find the beauty of this so that it can be appreciated by someone else. So when you look at yourself in the mirror and you find your passion about being who you are and who you represent in life, every single day as you go out there, and that everyone will know not only that you're a Christian, but that you're a kind human being, that you're the best person that you can be. Be passionate. Show your best side. Always put your best foot forward. Be the best person that you can be today, tomorrow, and always. Don't ever backslide. Because the minute you do that, you will allow some negative entity vibration to come in and just, oh, you don't need to work hard at being yourself. Yes, you do. Because if you don't work hard at being you, then you're just going to be slovenly about it. And it doesn't matter. And, oh, I don't need to comb my hair today. I don't need to brush my teeth. I don't need to put on, well, ladies put on makeup or blush or whatever, or gentlemen putting on a clean pair of pants or, a nice shirt or whatever. You put your best foot forward. Be passionate about who you are and who you represent. What your outward appearance should be to the others. Be passionate about it. Like who you are. Because if you don't like you, then nobody else is really going to appreciate you. Believe me, my job reminds me that every once in a while. When I first started my job, there was one of a senior parking enforcement officer, and she used to say, it was in joking, but I hear it every once in a while, and they said, meter maids eat their young. And I'm like, what? What? That doesn't sound very nice. But that's the way the public look at us sometimes. Like they call us parking Nazis or evil people or whatever. I mean, everybody has a different look at it, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't be out here with job security if there weren't people that keep breaking the law. So, and Harry this morning reminded me, he said, they have people like you that are out there writing the tickets for the street sweeping, because if they don't move their cars, the streets never get cleaned. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, Harry, that's right. Because we need a clean environment. And where does it start? It starts at our feet. And then we clean the air around us. And then we clean ourselves. I figured I cleaned up okay today. So in closing today, I have something that I want to share with you. And I thought you would appreciate this. It's called spiritual immunity. Halford Lockett noted the significant correlation between physical and spiritual immunity. In medicine, a person can develop an immunity against a disease by receiving a very mild dose of the disease. The same thing can be experienced with the soul. If a person receives nothing more than a small dose of God, he may develop an immunity against the life-changing relationship Jesus can provide. Leslie Weatherhead affirmed this when he said, "The trouble with some of us is that we have been inoculated with small doses of Christianity, which keep us from catching the real thing." Catch the real thing. God bless you.